And welcome back to Jeff Kenyan Live here at Citizen Television. Looks like all these Gen Zs on their phones. Everyone's like this. Everyone's like this on their phones like, Jesus, you guys are just on top of things, aren't you?
Yes.
Was in the tech space there's fear of operation during at the height of the Gen Z revolution.
Yes. And June 25th was the date, right?
But I think the Gen Z revolution was perfect proof that the pen is mightier than the sword. I think it was a perfect exemplification of that.
Gloria, I left the last break and said you were going to come back and respond. So I'm going to give you that right of reply.
First, to begin by saying it would be a complete misconception to imagine that the National Youth Council, the Youth Council, would reduce the challenges of young people into mere logistical challenges, as Mohammed here tries to present. What the National Youth Council does, and if you'll allow me to plug us in here, we are the National Youth Council. We are established by the National Youth Council Act of 2009. We are essentially mandated to act as a voice and a bridge between young people, the government, civil society, and so on and so forth. In fact, our very commitment is amplified youth voices. So it would not be in our pretext or in our interest to ever reduce the challenges of young people in this republic to mere logistical challenges. However, we must also acknowledge that where there is no ill will, where it is just small challenges that can be addressed, we must then be pragmatic and honest in such a fashion. So just to assure Mohammed, we are not reducing the challenges of young people in this country into logistical challenges. We are simply saying that before we get alarmist and say that there's a challenge, let us trust that work is being done to resolve.
But Gloria, there is a challenge.
Yeah. Let me ask her this. Because,
go.
Maliba Arnold,
yes.
You know him?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
Hi, Maliba.
Yes. He's asking, when do you plan to do the National Youth Council elections? Young people need their voices at the council. The National Youth Council prides itself as the voice of the youth, yet this hasn't happened. When did you last conduct the elections?
It was supposed to happen in February.
Yeah. Two things. Two things. First, two things to say about that. First, our Cabinet Secretary, the Honorable Mvurya, pronounced himself just 2-3 days ago, last week Friday, and said that the government is committed to the National Youth Council election. That's all I have to say on that. But let me count the wins for us up to this far. For the first time in 12 years, we have a national steering committee. That has not happened in a long time. In November 2024, a national steering committee was gazetted, and that set us on a pathway towards the election. And as far as the election is concerned, the message is clear. It is on X, it is on his handle, it is on our ministry handles. There is a commitment to deliver the election. But beyond the election, the National Youth Council and creating opportunities for young people is beyond the election. The election will accommodate about, say, 9,000 representatives across the country. But beyond that, there are other things that matter to young people, like creating employment and giving them access to services across the country. One of the things that the council does beyond the elections is programming. Programming that is focused on climate resilience. Programming that's focused on entrepreneurship skills and digital skills, and allowing young people the opportunities to create
it's blah, blah, blah.
I'm sorry.
Even Mohammed is laughing right next to you. He says, he's shaking his head and holding his chin. Gloria, come on, man. Don't BS us.
I'm not BSing you. What matters for young people in this republic, and I see them every day from every walk of life, north, south, east and west, high, and as he said, elitist and ordinary human beings. What matters is livelihoods.
But my chair, I must interject and
allow me before you interject.
Let her finish her point.
We have demonstrated, the National Youth Council alongside other agencies have demonstrated the priority, creating jobs and opportunity. That's what really matters. I know many young people, and I have seen many examples online and in other places, and there are examples that I'm sure we can sample from the internet of young people who either through their Jira digital program are making a living today, either through the labor mobility program have managed to go abroad to make livelihoods for their families, or either through opportunities here locally. What matters at the end of the day, Jeff, whether you're in the political process or in the professional process, is when you go home, can you feed yourself? The bottom line here is livelihoods, and I dare to say that the young people of this republic will agree.
Nerima.
I mean, I cannot even jump into.
It's not livelihoods.
Are you going to go abroad to Saudi Arabia to become a, you know what?
I have so many issues with the labor migration policy.
Labor mobility.
Okay, labor mobility. If you want to be politically correct.
Labor mobility is what it is.
But the problem is that you have people who are going to Qatar thinking they're going to be teachers and they end up being housekeepers.
Thank you.
And their passports
security
are being
guards.
kept. So even the agencies to find the name of these agencies who are sending these people out. You know, media will report them as 26 agencies. We don't know who they are. By the time you even find out who they are, they rebrand themselves. And then they form new agencies to do this work. When you see thousands of young people outside KCC looking for employment, that is the #1 thing we should be concerned about in this country. When you have young people who cannot meet their basic needs, expect unrest. And especially when we talk about this administration who focused on the economy, employment, but now we've seemed to have lost the plot. They are concerned about many other things right now. And even the work that we do, we've done research on Ajira centers and whether it relates to the current labor global market. There's a mismatch. Even when we look at our education system, you have now taken me into a whole other rant. There's a struggle with CBC and even the universities right now in terms of making sure that the kind of education young people are receiving, first of all, people are struggling with help. They're not even in class. But the kind of education that young people are receiving is something that can match in terms of tech-savvy employment opportunities. So, no, I think that we are struggling even with brain drain, where we have the best of young people who are now being sucked out into these other countries, and it's being seen that better to find an opportunity outside rather than building within. We need to focus within, and that would be a priority area for me, rather than this mobility aspects that we're seeing. Even some of the work that we're doing with workers, there is underpayment. There are young people who are being underpaid, including the kind of work they've been introduced to through Ajira centers. Some of them are even saying the kind of training they're receiving. Why would I be learning how to build a website? I don't have a business in mind. People some of them are looking for jobs to be able to go into. But when you can't have access to capital, that's a huge problem. But we're not talking about Hustler Fund and how it failed or where the resources went. Sometimes I think that there are a lot of stories in regards to how to solve these issues, but the implementation is what's lacking.
Okay. Are you?
June 25th was, of course, arguably historic and customary to you on this because of your subscription to the ODM party. Kenya's young population is 70% of our demography, and we had seen the mobilization power at the height of June 25th. Why would you and the others cozy up to two different formations politically to political players who have grossly embarked on a campaign of incompetence, corruption, and patronage, yet you have the numbers, you young people, you have shown your capacity. Why can't you just form your own movement in a democracy and thrive and do that ballot revolution in 2027?
If I may speak freely, because I think a lot of that is not happening, especially I know for the acting CEO of the National Youth Council, her hands are tied. There are things which I must say for the youth because I can analyze the movement. First of all, they've not had an election in over 5 years, but that's neither here nor there. But let me speak freely. We were hoping for, we said that if we cannot have a bullet revolution, we will have a ballot revolution. But remember the time when I was in this movement, we had agreed that we were leaderless because the leaders that have consistently been a part of us have been used to divide us. We said we were partyless because the existing parties were not used to galvanize us towards a common goal of a healthier Kenya. And we said we were tribeless because for far too long tribes had been used to divide us. To the question, why have we cozied up? I will ask us to be a bit more honest with this line of questioning, because I would love to see where the Honorable Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga has been accused of corruption and embezzlement and those kinds of cases. And we have to be factual. We cannot say that this is implied because we cannot bring a man's persona into question out of hearsay. That is one. But two, I was in a very precipitous... I'll get to it.
You'll finish up. It isn't about the persona.
Yes.
We play the ball, not the man.
Right.
For avoidance of the fault.
Right.
But the question was strict and to the point.
Yes.
I mean, if you have the numbers...
Yes.
And to argue this politically...
Yes.
As argued by, of course, ODM members, there's no ODM without Odinga.
Right.
And there certainly is not... it isn't the other way.
Right.
Why not form and maintain your own position on course?
I am getting to that because remember, there are some young voices that popped up in the early stages of the movement and they tried to form a political formation and we banished them. We killed those people and chased them out of the movement, a movement that prides itself in democracy. So we were not being honest about that. And I remember saying that at a particular point, we will have to seek political solutions. I speak as a person who was the spokesperson of the National Coordinating Committee of People's Assemblies. I had political parties therein. I had social justice centers therein. I had some of these CSOs therein. Those were about 60 organizations. I was a spokesman too. So when I say that I made a careful analysis, is I said I felt like some people wanted to be stuck on chaos for the sake of chaos, and I thought it wise to pursue a political agenda. And even the political parties that existed were not being honest about their pursuit, because there's no way we could have been activists for 10 years and you want to tell me that a person who is not well grounded in ideology comes and takes that seat. And I saw this and said there's a lot of pretense here, and now I shall align myself with a party that has consistently, because if anything, part of the linguistics and the language that we used was just from the 2023 similar finance bill protests. The problem I have, and the problem why I need to call all of us to honesty, there is no problem if people align themselves with Kalonzo Musyoka. There's no problem if people align themselves with Eugene Wamalwa. There's no problem if you align yourself, heck, with Rigathi Gachagua. But there is a huge problem to the point where people are going to call me a traitor for aligning myself with the party that fought for the constitution that we base all our decent arguments upon. I think that is rather unfair. And I think when we level that question, it is cheapening and saying that the youth in the ODM Youth League that I come from are not youth enough, that they are traitors. Are we going to accuse those same youth for the corruption? Are we going to say that they were not on the streets?
Mohammed Abdullahi is still writing, jotting down notes every minute.
No, but if I could try and respond to Ayub's question.
Go on, yes.
I think Ayub asks a very important question, that why weren't you able to politically organize? That's the question he's trying to get at. I want to believe that those numbers were visible. The common clamor for reduction in taxes, or the common request for better governance, the common request for less corruption, was common amongst young people. Why do you need to align yourself with existing political organizations? Why not form your own? I think it's a huge ask to politically organize, and to successfully politically organize and to get into office is a tall order, especially within even 5 years or sometimes even 10 years. ODM has, I think, if I'm not wrong, been in existence since 2005, since the referendum of 2005. It's
about 20 years, right?
Yes. 20 plus years.
Yeah.
It has successfully not gotten into government. Of course, there are a lot of other reasons as well coupled with that. But I think to politically organize is something that is not easy. Some of the undoings, which I saw with that organization probably, is at the time, it was very right to be leaderless. It was very right to be tribeless. It was very right to be partyless, because people have associated parties with deceit. People have associated parties or some political figures only using the request or the grievances of the people to only achieve their political ends. So whereas then it was something that was right, I think to successfully organize politically and to have a say at the ballot in 2027 requires way more work. And not to talk about the person but I could understand why people feel that ODM, that party, betrayed the cause or what people died for in Parliament grounds on June 25th. If ODM, as it prides itself, is a very pro-people, it was against or was fighting against this government at the beginning of its term. You remember the Sufuria revolution, the cost of unga and all of these things. These are the same things that the young people were fighting against this government on June 25th. If those were your ideals a year ago, why did you ride on our effort, on our cries and all of these things to just get into office and to get into government? That is, I think, where people see deceit, where people see traitor in that party, or in the people who hold the ideals of that party, that you rode on this very much and then just got into government. You did not amplify the cries of these young people after June 25th.
Why don't they say that about Jubilee?
Only the National Youth Council amplifies youth voices.
Oh, no. But however, just
Gloria.
try
But I
this
could
conversation
say-
without being a plug.
Let me respond. Let me respond to that exactly.
Respond.
Okay.
I think it is rather disingenuous for us to. You would think that the Orange Democratic Movement is the ruling party. Be it as it may, we've failed to capture power for reasons that the Kenyan masses must not pretend to forget. We've had bungled elections. If there is a party that has stretched electoral laws in this land, it is our party. However, we cannot disabuse, we need to disabuse ourselves of the idea that we are more special or more Kenyan than others. We lost people as a party in 2023. Heck, we are the ones in court for Baby Pendo. We've held these regimes, and Jeff, please forgive me, we do not have the atrocities of Uhuru Kenyatta being brought to light and to book as the personhood of our party leader is being displayed. Why is it that people only love the Orange Democratic Movement when we are on the streets? Because if you truly stand with us, you cannot agree with us sometimes and disagree with us at some point. I have a problem with the fact that people do not want our party to respect their wishes, because for far too long you've been saying that Raila is a sore loser. Then when he respects what you do at the ballot, then suddenly he is a traitor. And I struggle to wrap my mind around the fact that we are rather pretentious about it, because some of the leading voices, even on social media, campaigned and sold us this government. Some of those leading voices consistently have pushed tribal narratives against my party. We are, when I say we are pro-people, the largest progressive party, this is not bare platitudes. It is backed by Article 108 of the Constitution, which says that we are the majority, and the High Court pronounced itself rather recently. I keep on saying that we expect too much of the Orange Democratic Movement for far too little. If we want to, because I would love to assume that the ruling party is the one that should have been on indictment on this bench, but I have sat here having to take several jabs as though my party is in government. But remember, my party leader, even in the heat of the moment, in the heat of his campaign, at the risk of losing favor of the Kenyan vote that he was seeking, he faced the president and told him that we ought to end abductions, we ought to end the killing of innocent protesters. Our party has made itself more than abundantly clear on this position.
But there's some people in your own party who felt that he betrayed you all.
But same thing, there are people, it's the same, it's that Mahatma Gandhi fallacy of sorts of saying, I love Christ, but I do not love Christians. It's a political party, not a religious organization. There are gonna be people who are bad players in every political party. So what if we gave 4 of our leading party honchos? Have we abandoned? Haven't you seen us severally castigate them when they have dared not toe the party line? Haven't we castigated them collectively when they were saying certain utterances? Haven't we made ourselves and pronounced ourselves abundantly clearly? I think it is rather unfair for us to pass judgment on an entire party because we donated 4. I do not see the same castigation happening to Uhuru Kenyatta or the Jubilee Party. I do not see the same castigation happening to the young people who've gone to Wamunyoro for crying out loud. That Wamunyoro snakes oil salesman is a person who right now pretends to be the beacon of and paragon of virtue, but and complaining that people's and judges' securities are being withdrawn. But he said that up until he sees discipline amongst our members, remember when we were on the streets in 2023, until he sees our party leader behaving well, the security is withdrawn for 3 months. How comes it is only a problem when we align ourselves with Raila Amolo Odinga? What is the problem, Kenya?
All right, time to take a look at the magic wall and what's happening. The reactions must be coming in thick and fast because this man is speaking too much English for me today.
So the first one comes from
Go on. What you got?
Moji Abdi. He says Kenya's youth are not just alternative voices, they are the pulse of a nation demanding change, but voice alone is not enough. Strategy, unity, and political maturity must follow. Revolutions are not won by noise, but by organized resolve.
Okay, nice.
The next one comes from Saidi_Mahoka. Says, when Gen Z came into existence, it didn't have a head or a tail. Ask them if they now have both. Yes, they can respond to that?
Yeah, who's going to respond to that? Mohammed.
Whether you have both the head and the tail.
And don't let Kasmal respond because he's going to take about 10 minutes. So
I have a response, though. I could condense it into a minute.
No, don't.
Mohammed, please go proceed.
My response will be the same one, Jeff and Ayub. I think that there is no political organization that has happened. I think the grievances are still there. So I don't think that there is political organization that has happened so far, which will probably be successful in 2027. It's yet to be seen. I don't think we've organized politically enough to change government.
You agree? You're nodding. You're nodding.
I'm agreeing and then not, because what happened has changed the political dynamic today. If there was a non-existence of something, the political class would not be organizing today. Kalonzo would not be meeting with Gachagua and Mwamalwa for tea today. No. And so you can see them grappling with trying to identify themselves with Gen Z. So they are trying to capture that amorphous. And because of that, they have realized they don't have them. And so for me, it gives me joy that I believe we're seeing semblance of a creature being formed. And in the next few months, it will exist. I do think
next few months?
Yes. There are people working in clusters who are forming. Yes. There's activity going on. Yes. And in the next few months, you will see. I can bank on that.
Okay. So we proceed with
what else you got?
Next, of course, there are many, but in the interest of time, we'll be able to sample some. Your panelist, Gloria, has stated that Maisha number works. Please ask her where in this country is it required that you present the number for a service. Already, ID numbers are unique to everyone. Why stick to them? Why not?
Gloria.
For the question, Laikipia_1. Your ID number, I reiterate one more time, and at the risk of sounding like a record, your ID number is your citizen right. It is your birthright. You will receive it when you apply for your ID and when the processes follow. A Maisha number has been issued recently, and it will serve its purpose as and when the time comes. But that is not to take away from the ID number. So the message here is that ID numbers are still being issued. Young people, once they acquire the age of 18, can apply for their ID, and it will be issued to them. Thank you, Laikipia_1.
Answers here.
Very polite government.
Okay, the next one comes from Rigo Art. Says, did Gloria just say that their key role is to amplify youth voices? Whose voice is she amplifying? She's amplifying her own voice. Young people are saying, scrap off that 1,000 cost of ID. Amplify that.
Amplify that, Gloria.
Very happy to. The National Youth Council, again, amplifies youth voices. And I loved what Kasmul said earlier about this being an appeal. I believe I started earlier in the day by speaking to process. If this was something that, and I appreciate that Rigo Arts says that this is a particular pain point. I reiterated, and I continue to, that there has been demonstration of the opportunity to listen and adjust where need be, as was recently exhibited with the removal of the vetting process. So if we plug into the process, and the National Youth Council is happy to facilitate that, but if we plug into the process and make the request, I believe the exception can be made. But let us not forget that we are still requiring services, and services are delivered at a cost. Let us not forget that.
Yeah. But Mohammed said it right when he said, you can't charge everyone for everything. Too many taxes.
Okay, so Danson Mukile from Washington, D.C. It must be afternoon there.
Yes.
Good evening, Jeff. He says most commentators have been speaking on speculation, including my colleagues in the studio. If you listen to the chief agent, Honorable Jared Okello, you get a clear picture of what transpired. There were less than 20 heads of state, and the majority were foreign ministers. The Djibouti candidate was a foreign minister. Local politics was neither here nor there. Okay, next one. Dav_EI says, Raila Odinga lost the AU chair bid due to a lack of regional consensus. The East African community divisions, Francophone, Anglophone politics, geopolitical influences, and strong competition from other candidates, diplomatic strategy, and perceived political baggage also played a role.
Yeah, we talked about all that.
The next is lit_and says, it's quite refreshing seeing Kasmuel and Gloria, the panelists you call pro-government, speak without fear and with clear concerns. I believe majority of so-called Gen Z movement has been taken over by reckless, insult-throwing individuals who can't argue factually and disagree amicably.
Whoa. That's kind of harsh.
Ndungu Wainaina says Gen Z is defying their political and economic system reset platform. Their platform is economic justice and dignity through clean governance, rule of law and accountability. They need to do aggressive mobilizing, organizing and step up civic engagements with grassroots.
Oh.
Moses Okoth says it's very unfair for some young people to castigate Ores, claiming that he betrayed them by joining the largest party, ODM, and yet he was not the leader of the Gen Z movement. Every young person is at liberty to join any political party of choice.
Okay, all right.
Kei Gashima says listening to the young people argue so well and factually is a clear indication that tomorrow is so promising. Go, 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 Gen Zs, the future is luminous.
No doubt.
Mark_Makuda says Mohammed Abdullahi is a smart guy. A bright future awaits him. Pure greatness.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Next, Sanixon Dugure says, dear youth leaders, the Youth Enterprise Development Fund budget allocation 2024-25 was cut by more than a half. Were you comfortable with that? Could it be that the youths don't utilize the fund accordingly? Lady_Free says, let's be honest for once. I can assure you 90% of youths don't have Maisha number to Sidanganyane. And you say ID delays could be attributed to logistical issues. Why only in this government, though? We cannot trust a process that doesn't work.
I got Fred Obach Machoka here. You guys all know him, right?
Yes.
The legend himself.
From the ranch.
There you go.
Yes.
He's just very bright young people you got there. I love the discussion. Kindly ask them all to name top 5 priority areas to be addressed by this government. Actually, let's not do 5. Let's do just 2. Narima, start with you. Top 2 area, priority. 1, 2.
I already had 5. Unemployment, economy, health, agriculture, and education. I had 5. Yeah.
Ooh.
Those are the 5.
Mohammed.
Jeff, I'll start with taxes. I'll say, and not just taxes, the unpredictability of the tax regime. I think that hurts more than high taxes or low taxes. Even if taxes are high, at some point the market will reset and businesses will reset and people will have an understanding. However, unpredictability of tax regimes, introduction of new taxes, new tariffs here and there, taxes rates going up, I think hurt businesses. I think businesses are the lifeblood of this economy, should be the lifeblood of the economy as well. Second thing I would say is the university funding model. Please, this government relook that model. I think it will disenfranchise a lot of young, bright Kenyans who education is an equalizer. And the moment we start to deny our people or our young people the opportunity to get into universities and to be able to afford those universities, I think that will be bad. So those 2 will be very high for me.
Very good. Taxes, university fees, capitation. Gloria.
I'll go for 3.
Go on.
1, because, and I'll take a different approach. Unemployment and livelihoods. And just to note that multiple initiatives are ongoing that allow young people to either access jobs, like I said, locally, online, or abroad. Secondly, education. This government in particular has invested heavily in the TVET education model. So it's not just universities, it's also about technical and vocational education that gives you skills that you can use immediately. And lastly, access to capital, because I believe it enables entrepreneurs. And there's already multiple initiatives. There's a Youth Enterprise Fund, Uwezo Fund, National Gender Affirmative Action Fund, all of which are targeted towards special interest groups, including young people.
Cashmore, how many do you have?
As many as there is time. However,
I'll take 2.
We could tighten.
I'll take 2.
No. Let's limit to 5. Okay. We could tighten the war on graft. We have a bit of work that we could do there. We could do a better job at accountability, which is already going. We could have a better governance structure, and especially with regards to our diplomatic ties and the strengthening of our military. We could also work on food security, because I believe that hunger is a thing that should be of the past, and we should relook at our educational model. There's a lot of work that's happening there, but that could be made better. But finally, even though I might have my reservations, we could do a bit more better in the protection of our civil society spaces, so that we can create an environment where we can have alternative views being presented to the government and seeing how we could have a robust space that is not driven by greed, but driven by freedom and the greater liberation of our people.
Nice. My former classmate, his name is Joe Kithiaka, he says, excellent choice of panels indeed tonight. That set of Gen Zs are a true representation of what to expect in 2027 and beyond. I hope this generation will be able to save this country.
By the way, just to remind them that...
So let me just pick a picture here.
Go on. Where's the picture?
Monica can pull that up.
Oh, I knew it.
Oh,
I knew it.
and Morales there.
Yes.
So this is Caswell.
So that's Caswell.
And the gentleman in the navy blue suit is a good friend of mine. Advice Mundalo. There's Gloria and Morara. What was this affair about? Where was this?
The one in the glasses is me.
Yeah, yes. Where were you?
Okay,
Yeah.
I think
What was the affair with the business?
I'll address it.
Yeah.
I'll address it because people are trying to spin a narrative that does not exist. This was at the British High Commissioner's residence. That was yesterday evening, and we were there to have several discussions. They were meeting people from several sectors, from the creative economy, from the political side, and we were active youth voices in the political side. It must be of note that we were not the only young people who were there, but also I have to make it rather clear that part of the reservations I had, and I communicated this rather clearly, that it was unfair that if you're going to involve us in a political process, to meet us in the evening for 10 minutes, yet you gave your entire morning to the civil societies. The civil societies who are proving and pushing a narrative that they were not met, were met. They had the same meeting in the morning, and they had the meeting with the Minister for Africa from the UK. So this thing where people are trying to push a narrative that this was government, we need to have partners. However, we have to be honest, and this is the honesty I keep talking about. By day, they're lying. By night, they still keep lying. The civil societies, as much as we need a vibrant space, must be honest, because they had a meeting with the Minister for Africa from the UK in the morning. We had a short 10-minute in the evening.
Why do you have to be so defensive?
No, I don't have to be. I have to be honest, Jeff. And I think for far too long, the imagery that has come from this station has been that anyone who does not align with a contrary opinion to the opinion of the masses is being defensive. I have to say this because I said I had an inkling this is the photo that was going to come up because it's been doing rounds on socials. We were there and we met the minister for 10 minutes, but civil societies are not being demonized for meeting him for the entire morning. Why?
Gloria.
Just to acknowledge that the other lady in Burgundy, works for the British High Commission. Her name is Linda. And yes, it was a reception for young people in the creative sector, the governance sector. There was both representatives from regular actors as well as government. And yes, it was for a short while, but there was a great mix.
So what was the business in that 10 minutes that Casper?
We were speaking about political affairs and what we think could be done better in terms of the UK and Kenya's partnership.
For example?
But perhaps to clarify, the UK and Kenya earlier that day, other than meeting the civil society, they also met the Prime Cabinet Secretary earlier in the day, and they're in the process of firming up our cooperation agreements over the next 5 years. And so among the things that were priority for them were climate change, tech and tech transfer. In fact, I remember
strengthening of institutions.
So
all those were priorities.
How come Mohammed and Narima weren't invited?
How come you were not invited? You've been to
okay.
UK. We could go all night.
I am nobody.
That's what I'm saying.
I am not
You are?
Perhaps to say there was a really good representation of a really good mix of young people, including from the arts, and the British Council was there.
Mohammed was not there?
He was there. He was invited, and so was
But how come?
I was not there. I did get invited, but I didn't go.
Why didn't you go?
I was in another meeting.
Oh, more important than this one?
Yes.
Oh, hello. Mohammed, were you invited?
No, I wasn't, Jeff. I'm not complaining, though. I wasn't even aware that it existed, to be honest with you. I wasn't even aware that it was ongoing.
Yeah, but also there's the narrative that's being pitched, and I need to come, and most of the times we...
Listen, you've cleared yourself, man.
Jeff, no.
Caswell.
Allow me, I'm on the bench today. This bench is yours. You'll be here forever. Okay, until next week, before Ayub takes over.
Oh, snap.
However, there's a narrative, and a lot of the times when we are put in panels with the party leader for Inject, people expect us to be antagonistic. He is a party leader who's doing the thing which you've been asking us, why did we not do? We're barely giving him enough support, and we're cheapening this thing of the work that he is doing. And if we get lost in all this noise and trying to figure out who's doing what and what's we will lose the bigger goal. We have to be absolutely honest in our approach. Claim no easy victories, but also be honest in the challenges that we are facing. And honesty is definitely a big one we're facing in the moment.
Okay, you know what? It's almost midnight.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Yes.
And you people have too much energy. You know, you Gen Zs, you have too much energy. I have to go to sleep.
Oh, man.
Before we do
supplements.
oh, my God. You can take over. Before we do that, let's get some final thoughts from each and every one of you going forward. Right? Nerima, let's start with you. Going forward, talk to our people.
Going forward, young people, it's not the future, it's now. And to encourage that we have amazing even young people here, and there are many of them. And also the reason why there's a lot of pressure, especially to ODM, is because it's opposition. And so to whom much is given, much is required. The mantle is heavy on the head. And what people are worried about is not having checks and balances. And this generation, millennials and Gen Zs, I'm a millennial.
You're no longer youth, or you're almost on the cusp.
I'm cusping out. And I've done a lot of work for youth, and I'm proud of it. But it's to just say that there's a lot of hope, because I meet brilliant young people across different parts of this country, and they're ready to change Kenya. And they don't want to go at it at the same way. And that's why you're seeing this scampering in terms of how do we grasp this population we don't quite understand. So for me, it's to say, be ready. They are coming. It will change. We all need it. We have longer to live in this country, and we need to live in a country that's better, that protects not just us, but our children as well.
Absolutely. Nicely said. Nicely said. Mohammed Abdullahi.
Yes, Jeff. I'll first start by correcting myself. Now with the mention of Morara, I've remembered. He is one of the guys who are politically organizing. He's doing the hard work. He's doing the work that is required to probably successfully have any meaning at the ballot. I think we should support him. I think we should support any person who politically organizes. I think Kasmal as well. What he's doing is politically organizing as well, although I do not buy into that idea of politically organizing with existing political organizations. Of course, the ideals are different between him and I. However, this is the final thing that I want to say, Jeff, is that I do not wish for this government to fail. First, for my own selfish interests. I want to live in a peaceful country. I want to live in a prosperous country. I want to start a family in a prosperous country. I want to finish education and get into practice or business or whatever that is in a prosperous country that delivers for its people. I do not think that even us who criticize the government of the day continuously want any government of the day to fail. That, first and foremost, will be to deny ourselves the good that people get out of functioning, properly run government. So we would wish that the government of the day does not give stones in the name of fertilizers, that the government of the day does not practice the practice of collapsing the backbone of this economy and in agriculture and in all of those things. I want to believe that the government of the day has no business ensuring that people do not feel peaceful in their homes and all of those things. I want this government to succeed by all means.
Absolutely, 100%. Gloria Owira.
Thank you. To start by saying, at the National Youth Council, we are committed to amplifying youth voices. We work every day to achieve the Article 55 imperative that the government should make it possible for young people to associate, to participate and be represented in political, social and economic spheres of life. To that end, there's a bunch of initiatives going on, and we act as a bridge and a chance for you to connect to the opportunities. My challenge to young people is look at the glass half full. Take advantage of the opportunities that are available to you because they are there. There may be a need to expand them, but the opportunities are there. Secondly, with respect to organizing, the National Youth Council is currently mapping out youth-serving organizations acting in a myriad of things. Young people in this country are amazingly entrepreneurial. They organize themselves and they tackle different challenges. Please go onto our website and register your youth-serving organization. It allows you the opportunity to connect to a sector working group and to contribute meaningfully to the change that you want to see. Lastly, please connect to the council. speak to the council. You can find us on our social media handles at NYC_Youth Voice. It is the National Youth Council, your council. Thank you.
Kashmir, you get the last word.
As controversial as this might sound as a closing statement, President William Ruto, I want you to succeed. I want you to succeed because if you succeed, it means my sister finishes her education without me having to worry about taking an extra job. I want you to succeed because you have managed to bring equality to healthcare. However, they were still struggling with aspects of acceptance and accessibility that you can work on and turn the economy around. I want you to succeed because that means that I get to enjoy this space without worrying about abductions and death and enjoy differing opinions with my peers. I want you to succeed for the robust nature of our democracy so that we see what elections look like. I want you to succeed because you made a commitment to the people that every time when you go out there you refer to. And if you succeed in your 6 pillars, I need to assure you that you do not need to worry about anything else. You have already shown that there are steps you're taking towards the right direction. I have done this in confrontation. I have been on the streets, but I have not tried the approach of persuading you. I will be writing to you and saying these are the gaps which I think you could work on, while other people are organizing in other spaces. And I remember making a commitment that now I shall try a dialogue, because for far too long, so many lives have been lost unnecessarily. But to every member of the Orange Democratic Movement who's listening to us, I ask you to take pride in your party, to remember the ideals for which we stand for. We stand at a very difficult precipice where people are saying that we have been given much, yet we have failed to capture power in 20 years. To my party leader, Right Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Raila Amolo Odinga, I ask you to be firm in your resolve. It is time for us to preserve your legacy, and we are saying that the legislators who have consistently taken advantage of you, of your presence, of your lifting hand, we shall not tolerate. It is coming at a very great cost to us. And if you're listening to me as a young person, I implore you to join the ODM Youth League and help us to change this democracy. Because if we do not involve ourselves in the political processes, we cannot bring about the change. To anyone who's listening, who's Kenyan or who is African, I wish you peace and prosperity. I wish you clarity. I wish you clarity of mind and peace and soft landings in everything that you're doing, that you may be fruitful and abundant in everything. And to Jeff, I wish you more life on the show.
Oh, Lord.
After he said that Ayub is taking over.
As the person reading the comments, of course.
By the way, speaking of Africa,
yes.
People are watching you guys all the way from Banjul
Wow.
to Kigali.
We love it.
Yeah, Abby Agina is in Kigali. He says, great panel. Caswell is Martin Luther King reincarnated.
Is it?
I wish the Gen Z's well.
I'll send the remainder of the deposit, sir. Thank you.
Abby Agina watching from Rwanda.
Right.
Narima?
Yep.
Mohammed? Gloria? Caswell, you guys are great, man. You guys are great. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you.
Because I always keep saying, this is my one line. We've got to keep talking. Because the moment we stop talking is the moment we start fighting. And you don't want to go down that slippery slope. So keep talking. Keep asking the questions. Keeping them honest. That's our job. On behalf of myself, and Ayub, who's going to take over very soon. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Remember, if it's Wednesday, it's all about those 3 letters on the keyboard that follow each other. JKL. Thanks for being a part of this show, folks. Good night, good luck. Ayub, any last words?
God bless.
There you go.
Thank you for your company here on the broadcast. Always cherished. Have a lovely night.
Good night.